What's going on, everyone? How we doing? Jonathan, you good?
What's up, my bald brother? How you doing?
Hey, brother from another mother. I'm all good, my
That's right.
friend. Living my best life. So, except
How good?
I need a little more dark in my beard, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's coming, man. The gray's coming in. It's. I'll be catching up, dude.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Yeah,
Well, it looks like we got about 26 people, so that's good. We're going to get 27 now, so ticking up. So we appreciate everyone joining. We're super excited to kick this off. So this has been something that has been on our minds for a while. I'm sure on yours as well. But we see that there's an opportunity for us to really talk about not only just go to market in the phase shift that we're in, but also how AI is accelerating that and how we can use AI, inside of our go-to-market process. So we're really excited to kick this show off. So the show is going to be mixed. The reason we call it a show is this is going to be a mix between a podcast style and a webinar. So obviously, we may show some things, we may not. Just depends on how the flow goes. But ultimately, we wanted to kick this series off to really help educate, inform, and really bring in go-to-market operators, leaders, thought leaders, practitioners, et cetera, to basically showcase and talk about how they're thinking about AI, how they're using AI inside of their go-to-market processes. And so I'm super, super excited to have our first guest. And yes, he shares the same name as me, kind of looks like me. So yeah, super excited to have Jonathan here, also known as Coach K, to help us talk a little bit about what he's doing with AI. So I'll turn it over to him for just a second to introduce himself and give us some background on why he's here, why he loves AI. So over to you, my friend.
Hey, thanks, dude. Well, first off, it would be nice if it looked like you, but I'm not the one who had. I look like a celebrity on Hey Gen notification like you did. So I'm just saying, almost there. I'll get there someday.
Very
But
true.
yeah. So I'm Jonathan Kvarfordt. I'm called Coach K mostly because people in the past couldn't say my last name, so they called me Coach K. And I am currently the founder of GTM AI Academy. I'm also the head of revenue enablement and content marketing with Symmetric, a startup coming out of just this last little while, which is awesome. So I love AI. Like, I am in depth with AI every day, all day. And the only reason why I'm able to do all the stuff that I've been asked to do is because I leverage AI all the time. So I'm super excited about it, very passionate about it, not only from an enablement perspective, but from a leadership, from GTM strategy to all the team members. It's just something I'm loving and really excited about where we're going to go.
Absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
super excited as well. And so just so for you all know, so I know we had some people join or still joining in, which is great. So we'll keep them coming. But I'm Jonathan Moss. So I've been a go-to-market leader for over 20 years. I've worked at 3 companies that leveraged AI. And the struggle that we always had was, and I always ask, why can't we use the same AI tech that we're infusing in our product in our go-to-market and internal process, right? Why can't we do that? Let's push on that. And so so I also started AI-powered GTM, which is a website just really for educational resources and things. And I think a bunch of us are doing this really not only for ourselves because we're still in the very early innings. And so if you think you're behind in AI and haven't got started yet, it's okay. The
Yeah.
key is to get started and test some things. And we'll talk a little bit about some of those things today. But it's really just about practicing and learning. And really kind of what we're doing is we're documenting and sharing our learnings from either in the past or now and how we're leveraging these tools. And that's really what we want to share with you today. And so over the course of these shows that we'll have, so this is not the first one. This is one of we're gonna do these monthly. And we're going to bring in folks from different functions. So marketing, sales, partnerships, enablement, RevOps, et cetera. So the goal is to really think about the go-to-market process, the go-to-market strategy, and how you can infuse AI to help you. And kind of the way I think about it is there's kind of like, if you think about it, the 3 kind of approaches or a framework, if you will. And so one way to think about it is how do you augment and automate? And so this is really like, what are you doing today and how do you do it faster and better? And so Jonathan, there's like something that you mentioned that we talked about, which was really like workflow speed. And so I'm
Mhm.
just kind of curious, like tell us a little bit about how you're, infusing AI and some of the things that you're doing today to help you or your teams be faster and better at what they're doing.
Well, there's a few of them. I'm going to say the ones I think are probably the most impactful right now. So one is my team right now is international, so we speak several different languages. So I'm not only in charge of the enablement, I'm in charge of the content going out to customers. So being able to get out language specific stuff at the right time to the right person in the past was a huge challenge, but leveraging an AI platform called GTM Buddy that automates the tagging process, that looks at all the transcripts and stuff to look at the topics or content or the context of what's happening, and then looks at Salesforce and says, okay, this is a CFO at stage 3 that does this thing that speaks Portuguese, and pops out the right thing for the salesperson, so they have to waste time looking for something. So that kind of thing is like saving me mounds of time because I don't speak Spanish or Portuguese. So it automates that process of tagging. So it does all that for me, spits it out for him, and I'm done. So like all I got to do is create the good content. We can track everything. So that's one example. Second one is actually one I talked to an AI automation tool this morning about, which is automating coaching reviews and competency models using AI. So where it'll be leveraging calls and using a 3-part framework, which is the sales methodology, the competencies, and then the persona ICP research, and then combining it all to say, okay, based on all of this, and then the actual call is analyze it and spit out a report daily to both the reps and managers that gives them an overview of what they should be doing, and then tracks patterns over time. So we can look at performance reviews. Because right now, in the past, that was up to me or my enablement team or the managers to review calls, and no one has time to look at all of the calls happening. You look at one of 50. So performance reviews or performance improvement becomes hard. So those are probably the 2 biggest ones. There's a bunch of others, but that's 2 examples.
Well, let's dive into a couple of those because I really like those. And I would think about that one as one of the second portions of what I think about is like reimagining workflows. So you have this way to augment and automate yourself and kind of those routine and daily tasks and things of that nature. And you also have, how can I do a workflow better, more efficient? So the first one is super interesting, to kind of go back to that real quick. So ultimately, in the past, you've had to have someone regionally or, team members or things that translate, or you don't even know sometimes at the end, the end user, what language that they may need, because maybe they're bilingual and maybe they're one or the other. So tell us a little bit about your process. So what are you using? How do you use it to really accomplish the translation for global teams? Because I think that's an interesting one that people want to know how to do.
Right. Well, are you talking the actual translation or just the content to the right?
Just the content. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, on the content team, I have 2 writers, both of which are translators. They're the ones who kind of make sure that everything's at the final end, is make sure it's translated correctly. But the AI tool itself, it's nice because it not only understands the keywords inside of it, but the context of which it's speaking in. So it's talking about an industry or a specific problem use case that's attached to our product, and then can attach that to a specific person, all to the rep. So they're in Gmail, they're in Salesforce, like it's a pretty much an extension that pops up in every window. So it just pops up based on when they're on a certain profile or opportunity account, and it shows them whoever they need to have or whatever content they may look at that would be helpful for that stage. So really, really cool.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And so the second thing you talked about was really kind of competency and coaching and performance management stuff. And so, tell us a little bit about that. Because one of the things that, you see is, I think I think the number was somewhere between 30 and 40%. And so this is going to be sales specific, but like 30 or 40% of AEs last year hit quota. Right. And so we've kind of entered this period of, we come out of 2020, 2021, 2022-ish, where a lot of things were just coming, right? A lot of things, people were buying a lot of things, the new shiny toys, they had capital. It was free flowing. We got kind of software bloat, if you will, in the tech stack. And so really kind of people didn't really have to sell. Now, new world, we're having to actually shift and go back to the things that worked well when actually you had sales skills and things. So I think skills are becoming more and more important. And this is actually one of the reasons why, one of a few reasons, other than, we kind of share the same look and feel.
And name and everything else.
that I want to have you, because I think this is super critical for everyone is that's a foundational piece, regardless of implementing a tool, regardless of how you're approaching it. People have to understand the skills and be able to do that. So I'm curious, walk us through like how you're doing the coaching, how the performance review are happening, and then what maybe results that you've seen from some of this different approach.
Well, yeah, I'll give you one example of one of the sales reps. So The guy that I experimented with this on is the guy who's kind of a nerd for improvement. Like I love reps who are ready for coaching and feedback. And so I tested this AI tool saying, I'm just curious how it goes. So I listed it out, had a chat with the tool. I know that one of the guys is talking about Gong. Gong does have some functionality, but the tool I'm talking about actually is called Momentum that leverages some of Gong. But the point is that I was testing out with him saying, okay, let's look at his call. And I asked the AI tool, it integrates with Slack. And so I was chatting with it saying, give me the specific points in the call where he did well and where he did not so well, and tell me what about MedPick, tell me about our methodology. And it spit out this report with timestamps of what he did. And then I asked the guy, I said, tell me how accurate is this? Would you agree with this? And both his manager and him popped up and said, this is like 95% correct. And that was when it was not trained on our specific stuff. It's just general AI giving an analysis, right? So the step I'm doing now with them is I'm taking a step further, saying, okay, now let's apply the competency model that's specific to my company, our personas, so we can look at, okay, who are they talking to, what's our competencies and what's our methodology, and then smash that all together, and then use that as the context to measure a call, to where we can then give really pointed feedback saying, based on this context or this framework we're trying to help you get to a mastery level, here's the feedback we're going to give you, automated. The nice thing about it is that sometimes with coaching, I love coaching people, by the way, I've been doing it for years. But there's that human element where sometimes people can, depending on the coach, the psychological safety part is a big deal. So if you're not aware of that, it can shut down someone pretty easily. With AI, that's eliminated. It's just a robot. And so there's no emotion about, you sucked here, you did great here. Cool, it's just AI telling me this. It's like the emotion goes out, so they know it's not a personal thing. Does that make sense? So since then, a pattern that he saw was a certain topic that the AI was suggesting consistently, because we did it over 5 or 6 calls, and he shifted it. And now not only has he changed that in his conversation, this was 2 months ago when we started this, and now that one point, which had to do from his next step, specifically from discovery to demos, he was at, when I was measuring before, he was like at a 10% from one to the other. Now he's at 30. So in 2 months, we're able to increase that one stage step from discovery to demo, because we've had pointed out this thing that no one had time to analyze. What is he doing in the next steps to get to the next level? But the AI was picking it up. So that alone was like, ding, we're on to something here. It's pointing out things that I don't have time to look at, and neither does this manager, but it helps him to say, okay, I'm seeing this pattern come up and I need to shift it, you know? So it's that kind of thing, having that personalized, but yet company specific information. So it's not just random feedback of like, make sure you smile more. It gives you stuff of what was actually applicable and makes a difference in the overall quota revenue goals, you know? So
yeah, no, and I think that's critical, right? Because the interesting thing, right? And both of us, you know, have been in enablement in the past, or still in enablement. And ultimately, like the biggest challenge you've always had was, how can I personalize things at scale? Or how do I even get the information to personalize things? Number one, because to your point, there's so much information. Now I have to have a data analyst or someone go through it and try to find things for me. And then I have to try to, personalize each individual enablement program or training program or practice scenarios for that individual. I don't have, who has time and resources to do all that, right? And so now what we can do, you know, just kind of hitting on that is, not only can you proactively find those insights, but then you can also create the training or scenarios and things like that to really help them, and have coaching from not only, you know, someone, but also have AI give you some insights on coaching as well. So you've kind of infused this ability to really personalize not only the content and the scenarios based upon them. And you're seeing that improvement, which ultimately will help drive revenue, drive efficiency and effectiveness. So, that is a game changer, and something that has always been a problem for anyone, whether you're sales leader, enablement.
Totally. Well, in general, it comes to any performance improvement. My personal opinion is, in the past, I've worked for Fortune 500 companies, I've consulted for them, and I've also worked for small companies. I have never had a consistent quarterly performance review, ever, for me personally. It just doesn't happen. So the feedback I get is rare. And if it is, it's like, you sucked at that, do better. Okay, cool, thanks. So having some really applicable, like you have strengths here, you have weaknesses here, whether you're in sales, CS, BDRs, leaders, accounting, whatever, like having that type of feedback automated would be awesome for everybody, you know, not just in the sales, but.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Sales, CS, et cetera. Cause I've even seen, you know, a lot of things, so when AI kind of first came out, there was a lot around marketing, if you will, like how do I
Yeah.
create a blog post? How can I do this?
Yeah.
Sales with emails, like how, and unfortunately what's happened with that on some things is like you get these spam cannons now that we all know about that are, why our inboxes are flooded. They're not personalized. They're just AI generated messages, which is not the right way to use AI, by the way. But ultimately CS is kind of one of those to where, I'm starting to see more traction there. I haven't seen as much traction with sales and marketing, but there's so many things, whether it's, understanding customer health, proactive insights, whether it's how do I take those insights and prepare for, a QBR or a customer meeting, or how can I handle these escalations? And so I think there's just so many ways that people can, again, use this across the entire go-to-market process or go-to-market teams. And then for you in enablement, it just really helps augment and really accelerate a lot of the things that you do. So,
I think in general, we're going to see a lot of it. Like, I've been asking myself the question a lot, like, how willing am I to let go of things that I used to do to get to where I need to go with what is possible? Only because, as an example, with enablement or even with sales, like there's some things you do, like you showed an example the other day of researching, right?
Yep.
If I could say I'm the best KK researcher out there, but if I can do it in 10 minutes really well with AI, like which one would you rather do? And like I ask that question all the time with a lot of function in GTM, like what are we holding on to that we could automate? Like if I think my strength as an enablement person is me doing the actual one-on-one coaching, it's a good thing, but it's not exactly scalable and it's not as impactful as it could be if I could somehow replicate myself or a good coach, which is better than me. That's what I want to do. And I have to be willing to let go of my ego and say, what if I'm not the person, but I can help influence the process so that the impact of what I'm going for is the most important thing, not me being involved with it as far as the human part. Does that make sense? So the more I'm able to expand my mind and saying what's possible and how can I leverage AI to take out, I shouldn't say take out, but to leverage me more often, then I can scale it, get more impact faster. Like the coaching example is one of tons I could talk about, but I wouldn't have gone there if I wasn't willing to think about, am I willing to think differently about how enablement or sales or anything else happens in GTM functions, Yep. So.
No, absolutely. And I think that's the key. And I want to kind of hit on a few things. So one is, it's really more about augmenting. And so the critical thing, regardless of what you're doing, and Jonathan and I were actually chatting about one of the examples that I had where I was using it as a data analysis of a pipeline data. I was testing it out on a bunch of different things. So ARR trends, pipeline data, et cetera. And I got all the way down to checking who had the most opportunities closed, right? So all of my reps who had the most opportunities, ACV, sales cycle, all those good things. And it gave me the wrong name. So it gave me the wrong name, the wrong number with who actually was the highest. So there's still an element to where you need to check it, right? So it's not a silver bullet. It's there to augment. But ultimately the key is, and what you said was, hey, there's things that can save me time. There's ways that I can use it to scale myself or be more efficient, which then allows you to have that time to be more strategic or to let, to really dive into the things that you're really good at, or you could drive more impact because, you researching data, for example, or trying to find how you should coach someone, take time, right? And it's not the best use of your time. Whereas knowing where to do that, taking that and then actually putting that coaching into play is actually the impact driven outcome that you're looking for. And so AI can really do with that. So it's a really good use case that you're using it for. One of the questions I have, and this is just a challenge overall. And so it was funny, we're talking about the BCG article, where organizations, like 75% of organizations have basically somewhat invested in AI, but only 20% have adopted. And so what it says is that there's a big change management problem and that's not just with AI, by the way, that's with any tools.
That's just anything, right?
Just in general. And so I'm really curious, because you've implemented this in a bunch of different ways, whether it's the language translation you talked about, the coaching or the workflows, was there something specific, or can you walk our listeners through, like, how did you help change manage? What were the things that you did to give them the skills or the confidence, if you will, to leverage this and know that it wasn't just one more thing that they had to do, right? Because you always hear it's just one more thing. I already have plenty of things to do. Give us some tips and thoughts around how you approach that and how you've made that successful.
Yeah, the funny thing about AI tools or any tool out there, it's always the same process. It doesn't matter if I'm implementing Salesforce or if I'm doing a new fancy AI tool, the change management principles are the same, you know? So a lot of the time it's just understanding what's the gap analysis, what's the misunderstanding of what we're trying to accomplish. And then I personally like to do things like a beta test. So one core thing anytime I do any tool rollout is I'll have beta testers or a tiger team. So I'll get usually I get either the top rep or you'll say a team member, whether it's a CS or salesperson, whatever team it is. I'll get the person that's usually top performing and is someone that the team respects. And I'll have them go through my tiger team where we take sometimes 2 weeks, a month, depending on the project or the tool. And they work me through like their workflow, making sure it's right. So it's not just my opinion, but it's based on actual situations. Then they are my internal champions so that when I do pitch it out to the team, I can say, hey, this person you respect and also performs well. Here's the metrics. Here's the reasons why. And they are the ones who train, not me. I'm just the one providing the influence to do so. And then after that, it's just making sure that not only the initial training, but there's support afterwards for both the leaders and for the individuals so that they can understand how it's working. But to me, the tiger team concept by itself is huge. You can understand what's not working, what's not aligned, what doesn't make sense, where are things getting held up, and that you can mitigate some of the issues further down the line because you've already done some of the hard work with one person versus 100. So that's one for sure. After that, it's just understanding. I do a lot of workflow edits, meaning so I want to go shadow someone, say, walk me through. I usually take 2 weeks after or a month after. I'll just pick up some random person and say, walk me through what you're doing. And I want to see what's happening and see what the problems they are. Because usually one person has a problem, it's usually showing something else is going on. And if I can have some way to track what's happening, a lot of AI tools like ChatGPT is kind of Wild West. The team functionality is awesome, by the way. So now you have a little bit more ability into it. But before that, you had no idea who was doing what, how often they used it. You have no insight into it. So it's been challenging to understand adoption of that kind of thing. So I've had to be more aware of that as far as understanding the analytics of what's actually happening. But yeah, I think, so to summarize, tiger team, making sure you have that all up and running with key people. Hey, thumbs up. And then doing the gap analysis and workflow edits afterwards to make sure it's held up correctly throughout the process. The other thing is thinking about from an ecosystem environment. A lot of people think you just roll out one training. I have some one-pager guides. I'm done. It's more about what's the ecosystem that all that exists in. So if inside of that you have comp changes, you have new quotas, the thing, like all the other stuff happening, if you don't take that in consideration, that will drastically influence how effective something is or not with something. I try to make things as easy as possible. So it's like 1 or 2 clicks for someone to do something. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It gets overwhelming and it's just tough to get anything done. Like if I just said, go use ChatGPT, that's overwhelming because people don't get the results. Like you said, a lot of people sign up and then the cancellations happen because they're not getting the results they want with ChatGPT.
By the way, 44% of people try ChatGPT and then stop.
Right.
And it's one of those things to where, going back to your change management, and the reason that I wanted to spend a second on that was because it's not a silver bullet. It's not just something that you launch and everyone knows how to do. You have to be able to use it effectively, whether it's prompting or all those things. And so it's super important to learn how to do it, to test and experiment. And one of the things that I always, tell people and say is like, just get started. Like think about in your day-to-day or in your week, what are the things that you routinely spend a bunch of time on, right? And so you talked about one of the things that we were talking about, which was account research. That was one of the things that my team was spending a ton of time on. So what do I do? I created a GPT to be able to help them with that. Right. Super simple. You put in a website and it helps you analyze all the things. And so so this now going back to what you said was if I could save an hour for going from hour research to 10 minutes, why would I not do that? Because now I can 10x my account research. Now I can 10x what my productivity in that scenario. So I think that's super critical for everyone who's a kind of a beginner, if you will, or if you haven't started or things like that. You have to keep trying, you have to keep practicing. And if you need help, like reach out. There's people that share prompts all the time. In fact, I think Jonathan, you've got prompts, I've got prompts. There's a bunch of people that do that. And so if you need help, we can help you with that. But ultimately, you just got to get started. Just figure out
Yeah.
like what is it that you want to try, and then stay on that one thing, until you figure it out, or ask some of us to help. But I think that's the biggest scenario. And then if you're going to do this with a team, by the way, good nugget on the ChatGPT teams. That's just a new, for those GPT users that didn't know that, they did launch a Teams element to where you can interact and
awesome.
see everything. So thanks for dropping that nugget on everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the key, is just get started and figure out how you can be more productive. So
yeah, I think
speaking of that, oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
No,
I have a quick question because everyone on the call. I'd love to see like from 1 to 5, 5 being I feel like I'm an advanced AI user, ChatGPT, to 1 being I'm new. Where's everyone at? Leave a comment. I'd love to see that. But keep going. I just want to see who our viewers are out there. So
yeah, no. I was just going to ask you, like, what do you recommend? Like, how did you get started? How did you get your team started? Some tips, some things. Just how did you get started originally?
Long story short, 2 years ago, I was with a company that bought an AI platform. There's actually a facial and vocal recognition AI platform, and they integrate it into their own tools. So the CEO who built the AI, it was custom to their own AI models. He and I went through a long time of understanding the marketing concepts, the enablement side of AI in general, and how to integrate it. So that's how I learned about AI the first time around, was deep diving with an expert. And he was the one who actually introduced me to ChatGPT when it launched, because he was on some committee that was involved with it or something. So I felt very lucky to know him, because otherwise I may not have known it about as fast as I would have before. And so I've just been messing around with it before. What I've realized is that we're used to Googling. We're not used to AI speak. And so we're having to shift that from, because we were used to, make a funny cat poem about being on the moon or something. Or whatever the case is, we haven't understood. Like, I think we're starting to get it now because there's more and more content from you and, Ryan and all these other guys doing a really good job. But we're not quite used to how AI speaks. So we've had to get used to it over this last year. And I think 24, now that we've had companies who have integrated the APIs into their own products, platforms, whatever, I think this year is going to be the one where it's about, okay, how do we actually apply this in an automated way that's not overwhelming? So for my team, one thing I did when I first got here is it was kind of funny. We went through a couple of days of prospecting and researching training. And so I, on purpose, taught them the slow way. And I said, okay, I want you to do one account by yourself. When we did that, we did a research project for 2 days. And so I got them to a point where they got me some pretty good research from, not having everything had to do it to some expert pro level salespeople. And on the last day, I said, okay, everyone open up your pages. And I took one of the salespeople through and I said, I want you to put in these exact prompts in the ChatGPT. It was a 3.5 version, not the pro version. And we walked through and we walked through a series of prompts that all they did was copy paste it. I put into the team Slack channel. I said, copy paste. All you got to do is put it in your company. This is before GPTs existed in August, which is funny how fast things have gone.
Right.
And so we just copy pasted things as we went. And by the result, all of them had a research prospecting plan with a cadence of messages, both for LinkedIn, email, otherwise, in Spanish and Portuguese for their specific account based on research. Because most of the companies we go after, ChatGPT knew about because it didn't need internet access to know about the company, right? So we have this plan for everybody in a half hour. And that was back then. That's what I call old school AI. Now I have a GPT like you that my team is on the pro version. I give them that one thing like you. They have a website, pops out this prospecting researching plan with all their stuff they need in 10 minutes. It's awesome. It's crazy how this stuff happens. But
it is. So looking at the time, I'm going to ask just one more question before I do. Just for everyone who's so we still got a pretty good membership. So if you're a Pavilion member, please join the Topic AI channel. You'll get daily insights and things from Jonathan, from others in the group that are experimenting with AI. If you're not a Pavilion member, we have resources like this, not just about AI, but overall go to market. And so you can join. We actually have a promo code that I'll share. It's AI for GTM. That's it. 20, I think, AIFOR GTM 20 to get 20% off. So, we do this a lot, which is great. But last question for you with the time left. Give us your funniest faux pas with AI, because I see these things all the time. And so, so AI does some crazy things. So I want to just know your funny story.
Well, back when I was first using it and I didn't know what it could or could not do, I had it, when it first got access to the internet, I was experimenting with things. So I asked ChatGPT for some AI tools to do a certain function, and it spit out this the stuff. And I was like, oh, I think I told you about this. And there's one in particular. I was like, this is amazing. So I went to my leader. I was like, hey, we should check out this tool. I'm like, tell me about it. So I was telling him about this tool, and he's like, great, give me some prices. Let's talk about it. And I went out and researched it, and I found out it doesn't exist. That ChatGPT just made it up. I was like, son of a. So it was one of those things where I was like, okay, always double check these things. And now my prompts are different to where I require expert resources, and I check the resources to make sure it's accurate. Because like you said, there's funny things that AI does sometimes to make sure that it's being accurate. But yeah, that's one of many. There's others where I've noodled around. Like I wanted to be a comic book artist when I was a kid, and so I've made some comic book art with Midjourney, and there's been some times where like I'll have forearms or like something come out of its face or something weird like that. You know, AI is not always perfect, but it's just weird what it does. And like with you should tell your Hey Jen story for everybody. I think it's funny.
Oh, so okay, yeah. So yeah. Funny story. I forgot to finish my Hey Jen account a while ago because you have to upload a 2-minute video. So I decided to do that today because I'm really excited about it. And Andy Joels, who's another Pavilion member, posted his, and it kind of reminded me to do it. So I did that today. And when I posted and uploaded my 2-minute video, it said failed. It can't create my avatar. It detected a celebrity face. So I was like, huh. All right, I'm a celebrity. Didn't even know it. So now I'm
no idea.
To figure out what kind of celebrity I am, where my money is, where all those good things are. So yeah. So there's definitely some opportunities, but the
royalties, man.
I know royalties. Got to get those royalties. But the key is it's only going to get better from here. It gets better every single day. But yes, there's still some funny stories, and we love sharing those. So thanks everyone for coming, for attending, for registering. Jonathan, thank you so much for your insights and taking the time out to share all the things that you're doing. We look forward to continuing this on a monthly basis. So we'll send out the registration link for the next episode. We appreciate it. Hope you got some good nuggets and gems to use. Cheers.